Story 1. I'm Michael, and I grew up in Asheville, North Carolina, a place with misty mountains and quiet streets that feel like they hold secrets. A few years back, when I was in my early 20s, I was in a weird spot. I'd just broken up with my girlfriend of 2 years, and it left me drifting, like I was trying to find something solid to hold on to without knowing what it was. Life felt heavy, like a fog you can't shake. My grandma was my anchor back then. She was this tiny, fierce woman, deeply religious, who never missed Sunday service at the little church downtown. After my grandpa passed, I started going with her. He'd been a big deal in our community, a decorated veteran everyone respected, and losing him gutted her. But her faith? It was like steel. She'd tell me she knew he was with God now, and the peace in her eyes made me jealous in a way. I wanted that kind of certainty. So, I tagged along to church, partly for her, partly because I felt like I was spinning out and needed something to ground me. The church was small, all creaky pews and stained glass that glowed warm on sunny mornings. Everyone knew everyone, which made it strange when I noticed her one Sunday. Her name was Emily, and she stood out like a song you can't stop humming. She had this wavy, dark hair and hazel eyes that seemed to see right through you. I'd never seen her before, which was odd in a town like Asheville, where new faces stick out. After the service, I worked up the nerve to talk to her. My heart was pounding, not just because she was beautiful, but because there was something about her, like she didn't quite belong. We hit it off right away. You know that feeling when you meet someone and it's like you've known them forever? That was it. We stood outside the church, the mountain air cool against my skin, and talked about nothing and everything. She had this quiet charm, a little mysterious, but it pulled me in. I asked about her life, but she dodged the heavy stuff with a smile, saying I'd have to take her out to get those stories. I laughed, loving the way she teased. Eventually, she let slip that her family had just moved to Asheville and she was studying at a college nearby. That explained why she was new, but it didn't explain the way she seemed to flicker, like a candle in the wind. We swapped numbers, and I left that day feeling lighter than I had in months. Over the next week, we texted constantly. Her messages were witty and sharp, but always left me wanting to know more. I checked her Instagram, and I was surprised she barely had any followers. It made me like her more. She wasn't chasing attention. She opened up a bit, hinting at a rough home life. Her stepdad was trouble, she said, and her real dad was worse, though she wouldn't go into details. It sounded like she'd been through a lot, and I didn't push. I just felt glad she was letting me in. I hadn't asked her out yet, figuring I'd see her at church again. Sure enough, she was there the next Sunday, standing in the same spot, like she'd been waiting for me. I didn't hesitate this time. I asked her out, and she said yes with this smile that made my chest tight. We made plans for later that week, and I spent the days leading up to it nervous, excited, and feeling like something big was about to happen. Little did I know how right I was. So, the night of my date with Emily finally came, and I was a mess of nerves and excitement. We kept it simple. Just a movie at the old theater in Asheville and some burgers at a diner after. The air was crisp, the kind of mountain night that makes you feel alive. Emily was easy to talk to, her laugh, soft but real, and she listened like she actually cared. It felt good, like maybe I was finally moving past the fog of the last few months. After dinner, I didn't want the night to end, so I suggested a drive. There's this road just outside Asheville, near the Blue Ridge Mountains, that's quiet, winding, with trees closing in on both sides. It's peaceful, perfect for talking. Emily agreed, and we hit the road, the headlights cutting through the dark. Everything was perfect, until it wasn't. Out of nowhere, Emily started talking, but it wasn't English. Her words were fast, jumbled, like some old language I couldn't place, maybe French or something else. I laughed, thinking she was messing with me, but then I glanced over. Her eyes, they'd rolled back, just the whites showing, like something out of a nightmare. My stomach dropped. I swerved, nearly hitting the guardrail, my heart hammering. I pulled over to the shoulder, trying to stay calm, but inside I was freaking out. Was she having a seizure? I didn't know what to do. She was still mumbling, her head twitching, like she wasn't even there. I fumbled for my phone, hands shaking, and called 911, stammering that I thought she was having a seizure. I kept glancing at her, terrified, not sure if I should touch her or just wait. Then, just as suddenly as it started, it stopped. Her head snapped toward me, eyes normal again, but the look she gave me, I'll never forget it. It was wild, like she'd seen something I couldn't. Before I could say a word, she flung the car door open and sprinted into the woods. I mean, full-on ran, disappearing into the trees like a ghost. I sat there, frozen, my mind spinning. My hands were trembling, and I couldn't make sense of it. I wanted to chase her, but my body wouldn't move. The cops and paramedics showed up maybe 10 minutes later, their lights flashing through the fog. I told them everything, even though I sounded crazy. Her eyes, the mumbling, the way she ran off. They nodded, took my statement, said they'd search for her, but I could tell they didn't know what to make of it. After that night, Emily was gone. I looked for her at church, but she never came back. Her Instagram was deleted, and her number was blocked. I even asked a friend to text her, but the number didn't exist anymore. I asked around at church, but no one remembered her, like she'd never been there. It was like she'd vanished into thin air. I don't live in Asheville anymore, but that night messed with me. Every time I think of home, I see her eyes, that look, and I feel this heavy, helpless weight, like I was watched, like I was alone in something bigger than I could understand. I still drive that road sometimes, half expecting to see her standing in the trees, but there's nothing, just silence. I don't know what happened to her, and I'm not sure I ever will. Some things, I guess, you just can't explain. Story 2. Hey, I'm David, and I used to live in Salt Lake City, Utah, where life's pretty steady, but the open road always called me. A couple of summers ago, I was in my late 20s, single and itching for an adventure. I decided to drive out to Colorado to visit an old buddy, Jake, whom I hadn't seen since college. The plan was simple, a solo road trip, just me and my beat-up old pickup truck, a rusty thing from the early 2000s that was barely holding together. The brakes were soft, the engine coughed like it had a cold, and don't even get me started on the windshield wipers. They were useless. A drizzle could blind me, but Utah's dry as a bone most days, so I wasn't too worried. I love driving, always have. There's something about those long, empty stretches of desert that makes you feel free, like the world's just you and the horizon. The drive to Colorado was a breeze. Blue skies, good music, and that feeling of being untethered. I stayed at Jake's for a few days, catching up over beers, laughing about old times. It was exactly what I needed, but eventually, I had to head back. The drive home started out fine. Same endless roads, same sense of peace. I was somewhere near Moab, Utah, a place known for its red rock canyons and starry nights, when things took a turn. I'd heard Moab could feel otherworldly, like you're on Mars, but I didn't think much of it then. I was just focused on getting home, maybe grabbing a burger when I got to Salt Lake. My truck was chugging along, and I was lost in my thoughts, replaying conversations with Jake, when I noticed the sky darkening. Not just cloudy, mean, heavy clouds, the kind that promised trouble. Sure enough, a storm rolled in, and not some light sprinkle. This was a full-on thunderstorm, with lightning cracking the sky and rain pounding so hard I couldn't see 10 feet ahead. My wipers, predictably, did nothing but smear the water around. Driving was suicide, so I pulled off the highway, easing my truck onto a dirt patch, a good distance from the road. I figured I'd wait it out, maybe take a nap, save my gas. I thought about calling for help, but money was tight, and the last thing I needed was a cop slapping me with a ticket for my truck's laundry list of problems. My parents were too far to come and get me, and honestly, I'm stubborn. I told myself I'd handle it. So there I was, alone in the middle of the Moab desert, rain hammering the roof, thunder rumbling like it was personal. Not a single car passed by for what felt like forever. The desert's supposed to be empty, right? But this felt different, like the world had turned its back on me. I tried to stay calm, scrolling my phone, but the signal was spotty and the battery was low. The sun was dipping, painting the desert in this eerie, muted glow. I'd never felt so cut off. It's funny how your mind starts playing tricks when you're stuck like that. I kept glancing out the windows, half expecting something to be out there, even though all I could see was rain and rocks. I didn't know it then, but that feeling, like I was being watched, like I was too alone, was just the beginning of the weirdest night of my life. So, there I was, stuck in my truck in the Moab desert, rain pounding down, thunder shaking the air. The sun had just set, leaving everything pitch black except for the occasional lightning flash. I was trying to relax, maybe even sleep, but this uneasy feeling kept nagging at me, like I wasn't as alone as I thought. I kept checking the windows, seeing nothing but wet rocks and shadows. Then, out of nowhere, I saw lights. Not lightning, but sharp, white bursts darting through the dark. They were moving, jumping around like fireflies, but way too big for that. My heart started racing. I squinted, trying to make sense of it, and realized they were getting closer. Flashlights. Someone was out there, in the middle of this storm, heading toward my truck. I don't scare easily, but this felt wrong, like I was being hunted. Instinct kicked in, and I made a split-second call to get out. I grabbed my phone, bolted from the truck, and ran through the rain to hide behind a big rock formation. The cold soaked me instantly, but I didn't care. Crouching low, I peeked out, watching my truck. My chest was tight, my breathing loud against the rain. Then I saw them. 3 figures, each with a flashlight, circling my truck. They moved weird, not like they were searching, but like they were stumbling, almost dancing, their beams swinging wildly. It was creepy as hell. I couldn't make out their faces, just dark shapes in the storm. Suddenly, one of them fired a gunshot into the sky. The sound hit me like a punch, and I bit my lip to keep quiet, tasting blood. Every nerve screamed to stay still, to be invisible. I stayed frozen, barely breathing, for what felt like forever. Curiosity got the better of me, and I peeked again. The flashlights were gone. Just darkness. My stomach twisted. Where did they go? Then, like a bad dream, the lights were back, flickering around my truck again, taunting me. I couldn't stay there all night, soaked and shaking. My hands trembled as I dialed 911, whispering to the operator about the people, the gunshot, and my truck. She said help was coming, but it felt like a lifetime. I kept watching, terrified they'd spot me. Finally, I saw faint police lights in the distance. The second those red and blue flashes hit, the figures turned and ran, vanishing into the dark. By the time the cop pulled up, they were long gone. I stumbled out, waving, drenched and rattled. The officer listened as I spilled everything, his face calm, like he'd heard worse. He didn't find anyone, no footprints, nothing, which made it feel even creepier. He stayed with me until the storm eased, and I drove home, white-knuckling the wheel. That night changed me. I haven't done a road trip since. Every time I think of Moab, I feel that same heavy, helpless dread, like I was watched by something I couldn't see, something that knew I was alone. I sold that truck not long after, but I still check my rearview mirror more than I should, half expecting those flashlights to appear. I don't know who those people were or what they wanted. Maybe they were just drunks messing around. Maybe something else. All I know is I felt trapped out there, like the desert itself was holding its breath, waiting for me to make a wrong move. Some nights, I still hear that gunshot in my dreams. Story 3. Hey, I'm Sarah, and this is about the weirdest road trip I've ever taken. A couple of months back, my best friend Rachel and I were driving from Seattle to Denver after visiting some college friends in Washington. We were pumped for a girls' trip, just the 2 of us, with a car full of snacks, a killer playlist, and hours to catch up on everything we'd missed. I live in Denver, and Rachel's from a suburb nearby, so we figured we'd make the drive in one long shot, soaking up the freedom of the open road. It was supposed to be fun, an adventure to cap off a great visit. We'd been driving through the night, laughing, singing, and swapping stories, but by morning my back was screaming from sitting so long. I told Rachel we needed a break, some gas, maybe a coffee, and definitely a stretch. We passed a few exits before spotting a sign for a small town near Bozeman, Montana. It promised touristy stuff, like cute shops and local history, so we thought, why not? Bozeman's got that rugged mountain town vibe, but this place felt off the moment we rolled in. The streets were empty, the buildings worn, like they'd been forgotten by time. It wasn't creepy exactly, just wrong, like the town was pretending to be alive. Have you ever driven through a place that gives you a weird vibe, like it's watching you? That's what this was. We shrugged it off, blaming the long drive, and pulled into a convenience store to grab some drinks. Inside, it looked normal enough. Fluorescent lights, shelves of chips, the usual. Rachel was on a mission for her favorite soda, but they didn't have it, and she got a little dramatic, as she does. I teased her, saying we'd find it somewhere else. I grabbed a water and went to pay. The cashier was a woman, maybe in her 30s, tall, with dark hair and these distinctive suspenders. Nothing weird, just noticeable. I paid, we left, and Rachel spotted another store across the street. We figured we'd try our luck there. That's when things started feeling strange. We walked into the second store, and I froze. The cashier looked exactly like the woman from the first place. Same hair, same height, same suspenders. My stomach did a flip. I stared, probably too long, because she gave me a funny look. I blurted out, "Do you have a twin or something?" She frowned, said she was an only child, and asked why I'd say that. I tried to explain, but it came out awkward, and she just stared, like I was nuts. Rachel didn't notice, too busy hunting for her soda, but I was rattled. I dragged her out, telling her what I saw. She laughed, said I was tired, but I knew I wasn't imagining it. We ran back to the first store to prove it, but the cashier there was different now. A short, older woman with light hair. No way I mixed that up. My head was spinning, like the town was playing tricks on me. Rachel told me to chill, but I couldn't shake the feeling that something was off, like we were being watched, like this place wasn't what it seemed. We needed gas anyway, so we headed to a nearby station, hoping to get out quickly. That's when things went from weird to downright unsettling, and I realized we weren't as alone as we thought. So, Rachel and I were already spooked from the cashier thing at the convenience stores in that weird Bozeman town. But we still needed gas, so we pulled into a station nearby. It was dead empty. Just our car, the pumps, and a small building in the back. The silence felt heavy, like the air was pressing down on us. We walked inside, and Rachel took forever picking out a drink, muttering about how they didn't have her soda here either. I paid, feeling this knot in my gut, and we headed out, probably in there for less than a minute. When we stepped outside, I nearly dropped my water. The gas station, which had been a ghost town seconds ago, was now packed. Cars at every pump, some lined up like it was rush hour, and people everywhere, all staring at us as we walked to our car. It wasn't just a glance. Their eyes followed us, unblinking, like we didn't belong. My skin crawled. Rachel grabbed my arm, whispering, "What the hell is going on?" We hurried to the car, trying not to look back, but I could feel those stares burning into me. It was like we'd stepped out of reality and into something else. We decided to skip food and just get back to the highway. My appetite was gone anyway. Driving away, we barely spoke, both of us rattled. About 10 minutes out, a beat-up pickup truck passed us. Its windshield cracked in this distinct spiderweb pattern, the side scratched to hell. Rachel joked about it, looking like it'd been through a war. I forced a laugh, trying to shake the unease. Then, 10 minutes later, my heart stopped. The same damn truck passed us again. Same crack, same scratches, no mistake. Rachel started freaking out, saying, "That's impossible," over and over. I sped up, my hands shaking on the wheel, but I had to stay calm for her sake. There's no way that truck could have gotten ahead of us. We'd been driving straight. No stops, no turns. The odds of two identical trucks with the same damage? Slim to none. I glanced at the GPS, and my stomach dropped. It said an hour had passed since we left the gas station, but it felt like 20 minutes tops. I didn't tell Rachel. She was already on edge. It was like time had slipped away, like that town had messed with reality itself. We finally hit the highway, and it felt like waking up from a bad dream, but the weight of it lingered. By the time we got to Denver, hours later, we were exhausted, like we'd been through something bigger than us. That whole experience still feels unreal, like a fever dream I can't shake. I've told this story a few times and people look at me like I'm crazy, but I know what I saw. Rachel backs me up, though she hates talking about it. I've tried Googling weird stuff about Bozeman, and I found a few stories like mine. People feeling trapped, watched, like the world glitched. The worst part is that gut feeling, this deep bone-level sense that something was wrong. I'd never felt so helpless, like the town was toying with us, keeping us in its grip. I avoid small-town stops on road trips now, sticking to big highways. Every so often, I catch myself checking my rear-view mirror, half expecting that cracked windshield to show up again. I don't know what that place was, but I never want to feel that watched, that alone, ever again.